Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa, as well as Solutions, because I'm streaming through both channels today. So I hope everybody is happy. And I saw a lot of you earlier on with my interview with Devin Wendell. It was a really cool interview, actually. It's the first time I've interviewed him. He's like a very interesting guy that was born with really interesting gifts and had some really cool experiences, sees into the spirit world, into the Akashic records, stuff like that. Very cool guy. Definitely going to be having him on again. So nice to get different viewpoints and amazing open-minded people on the channel. Hello, everybody. Janice, Jojo, Linda. Thank you, Janice, Charmaine, Dragonfly. I mean, everybody. Thank you. And nice to see you all here again. You all know how much we love our usual suspects. Simply said, welcome to you as well. And of course, beautiful Brice, how are you?
All of our usual suspects. We're all such problem causers, aren't we? We're just
heretics.
We're
this
the
is
heretics.
The heretics. I think we should call our show the Heretics.
Heretics. The wise woman non-believers of the narrative. We'll call ourselves the witchy heretics, which is what that means.
The heretics. Yes, that's us. Yeah, we just, we'll carry on regardless. So, how you doing, honey hun?
I am so good. I was just telling you guys, Georgia, the state of Georgia that I live in, just got put, as I was getting back from teaching this morning, got put in a state of emergency by our governor, Brian Kemp. Florida was put into a state of emergency yesterday because there is a tropical storm, Helena, that is brewing coming up from the Gulf. Now, I was telling you, Shanti, in Georgia, we get hit from both sides because we have the Atlantic coast on one side and the Gulf coast on the other. And so, if you're in Georgia, they're suspecting we might be losing power, and Florida, which really sucks. I hate losing power. So if I go missing for a few days, I'm fine.
Listen, I mean, from what I'm hearing, there's a whole lot of sudden weather changes happening, right? Is that true?
I mean, we get this kind of stuff a lot. Like in Georgia, we get hit by hurricanes a lot because we are a coastal state, and they're so powerful they make it all the way to Atlanta. And like my boyfriend's parents are down in Florida, and one of my boyfriend's students was asking if we were going to his was that the Illumishmati trying to signal us? No, just shut
I'm
up.
sorry, my laptop is new and I've got messages coming through and I don't know where to make them.
It's the Illumishmati threatening us. No, I'm just kidding.
Panic.
Yeah,
no, you guys. I don't know where to make my messages silent.
It's we were just laughing. Both Shanti and I are not very good at computers, and I'm like, it's amazing we've been able to do what we could do. But even my boyfriend's parents, they're old Floridians, so they're hunkered down with helmets on. That's what they do whenever a thunderstorm or a hurricane hits, is they just put a helmet on. Most of the houses in Florida are concrete anyway because of the hurricanes, so they just sit in the hall with their helmets on. So we're used to it by now. We had one hurricane once. I remember when I was a kid that our back porch, the roof of our back porch actually flew up and over our house. Like, we're used to this stuff. This and tornadoes. This is what, we get tornadoes a lot too. Simply said, this is just a normal, like, it's just annoying. Listen, we get really groovy thunderstorms down here because it gets so hot that we just get these massive thunderstorms, which I love because they're not like wimpy. Like, no offense to the UK, but UK gets like wimpy rain where it just kind of drizzles. We get like hardcore rain.
No. Yeah. Or even Toto sang about the African rain or something, right? So you got to know the African rains is nothing nicer than an African rain. But I don't know if you guys saw my stuff on Facebook. We had snow, babe. Like a half a meter of snow.
Is that normal for you in South Africa?
No. We will have snow on the mountains. This was the 21st of September at Van Riemen's Pass, which is in KZN, KwaZulu-Natal. The trucks, Austria was jealous. I mean, I'm sure Austria must have sent their Gestapo over here to get their snow back. But, I mean, it was insane. We looked like we were Europe. The guys are walking around knee-deep in the snow. Insane, all over Facebook. So I'm saying that, and that was in the Free State and KZN. So, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, yeah, it was damn cold.
Yeah, we
But
don't know.
that's
That's
what
the
I'm
same in
saying.
Georgia. We don't know how to do when the rare times we get like a little bit of snow, we don't know what to do. Everything shuts down because we don't know what to do with snow. I love Dragonfly just said that we moved in the middle of Hurricane Bonnie in 1998. So that's just kind of how we do it. We're like, well, it's gonna come, but just get your dogs inside and get in the basement if you need to, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So yeah, this
Definitely a
crazy.
time of change. Definitely a
Yeah.
time of change.
Do you
For
think that's
sure.
the weather witches, or do you think it's the poles shifting? What do you think's going on? Or
No,
Mother
I
Earth?
think I think it's probably a bit of both. My
Yeah,
feeling as well. I think the times that we're in right now, there's inevitable change because if you look at any age, really, right, the
yeah,
Ice Age, etc., Earth does do its natural shifting, and if we're looking at the heavenly astrologies now, it is the age of Aquarius. We have just moved or are moving or in the process of. It's definitely something.
we're birthing into
Um,
it.
yeah, into the age of Aquarius, right? And at the end of an age, there's always shifting of stuff, polarities, and stuff like that, breaking up of islands or whatever it is that occurs, right? But also, but let's never forget, the Luciferians have been in control and they have broken many of nature's natural rules.
Yeah,
And Caleb actually pointed something which just reminded me, something out to me the other day. He said, God never said, you're not allowed to break the rules. God said you shouldn't break the rules. And the thing is, they have broken the rules, which is what's created the imbalance,
yeah,
because they understand energy very well. They understand how energy works. They've taken the principles of energy and corrupted it to its most debased form, which is where all the SRA stuff comes from, the mind control, the chimeras, the transhumanism, transgenderism, all of that. That's absolutely, absolutely not of God's will for us. But nonetheless, that's what they've been doing. So we have to find that balance again. And it's up to us to find the balance that we can counteract that. If that makes
yeah.
sense.
I saw this incredible video yesterday. I wish I had saved it, where this guy, this astrologer, was talking about 2024 is the year of karma, and how we are transitioning into a new age. And basically, right now, what is done in the dark is being brought to the light, and that's not just the whole Puff Daddy situation and stuff like that. It's also your own stuff is coming up because we're moving into a new age, and it's you go through friction, right? We're going through growing pains. We're birthing, and so it's But what's interesting, Shanti? I was watching stuff on the whole Puff Daddy situation, and there's a whistleblower, and we've said it here first. It's going to come out that the churches are heavily involved in these freak offs as well.
But we know that.
Yeah, we know that.
Know that.
We know that, but you and I have been threatened because we've tried to point this out to people, is that the church is not what you think it is. And so it's going to come out. A whistleblower was saying your churches are involved in this as well. They're supplying people to these parties.
Yeah, the churches, the orphanages,
foster care system. Yeah.
Yes, childcare, CPS, all of that. They're all doing it. All these kids are coming from there. Where do you think the kids come from?
Exactly.
Are they just growing them like little bonsai kids? Well, that's not impossible either. When we're looking at what they're doing, and the Cabbage Patch Kids, etc., the homunculi, they're growing kids basically.
But we know from the Cassiopeans that they want, for the people out there doing their betting, they want those kids to have souls. The ones who don't have souls get broke. They die basically with the abuse. But the ones who do have souls are the ones that their mind can split, right? So that's why they want the souled kids for the MK Ultra program.
It's the loosh, because it's the. Yeah. I read something very interesting the other day. They spoke about sleep paralysis as well. Yeah. And sleep paralysis is really entities feeding off your energy. Yeah. And it's like, because when you sleep, in that vulnerable state, your energy emits a certain, oh man, I
It
forget
happens
the
to me
name now.
all the time. I go
Yeah.
through, and it's scary when I'm in my mind panicking, trying to get my
But
body
that's
to
why it's so
respond.
important, but that's why it's so important to know what's going on.
Mhm.
Because if you know what's going on, because what happens is as they come closer to you, they feed off your vulnerable
Yeah.
state and let's call it your electromagnetic field when you're sleeping. That's not the right word, but I've just heard it, so I'm not quite sure of the terminology. And then there are these entities, like if you watched Harry Potter, what were those disgusting things? With a D, they didn't have souls.
Oh, I never seen Harry Potter, so believe it or not, I've never seen it. So or read the
Oh,
book.
oh,
So
oh. But anyway, there were those things that didn't have souls, basically, and they're feeding off your energy.
yeah.
So they paralyze you. It's like literally poisoning you, like a black widow spider does, right? Or a wasp does. What are those wasps that sting the spiders and eat them? Dementors. Thank you, Joanne. The dementors. Yes, thank you, Simply Said. The dementors that feed off your soul. Absolutely. That's what it is. So that's why it's so important before you go to sleep to be happy. You have to pray, you have to meditate, make sure you're protected, and not just, please, God, protect me. You have to know you are protected. Know it. The only thing that can counteract these things is your light. Your
Yeah.
light is completely indigestible for you. They want your loosh, which is your energy, your consciousness, but they want it in shitty form because they like shitty. Understand, we're dealing with the dregs of society here and the dregs of souls. They like that slimy, sloshy, disgusting fear, pain, blood. That's the energy they like. So obviously, as we raise our frequency by doing our shadow work, by facing our fears, becoming stronger, it's like the headlights become too bright.
We piss them off.
Can't see the head. When you
going.
see headlights, they can't see it. And, it's like they want to run away. Your vibration becomes indigestible for them. So that's why be happy, play music, dance, be joyful. They don't want that. They want you when you're vulnerable. And of course, when you're in sleep state, you are vulnerable, which is why you have to be protected.
Yeah.
But nothing that an external force is going to do, it's got to come from you yourself.
Yeah.
You're strengthening your own consciousness, your own soul right now. So that's how we practice. God sends us these things to practice. I say to people, why? I mean, if we're hearing that every day, Lucifer goes into the courts of heaven and asks God permission to do whatever he does, and God says, sure, then I'm saying, well, why are you pissed off with Lucifer? God has given Lucifer permission. So don't be cross with Lucifer. Lucifer is just being Lucifer. Now, the question is, why would God say yes? And that to me is very simple, because God knows that while Lucifer still has power over you, you still need to practice your powers, your inner powers. You need to strengthen.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like going to the gym, people. When you've been lying in a jellyfish blob, like a blob of amoeba for 40 years, suddenly you want to go to the gym. It's going to be tough work.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So this is what is happening with your soul. When you have not used your consciousness, it becomes lazy. It becomes...
Yeah. Well, and that's why I had somebody comment the other day on my channel about how they don't believe in a God that would allow people to suffer. I'm like, suffering is part of the lesson here. And we have to remember that this mortality is one little realm of existence that we're in. And so we have to remember our soul is immortal. Right. And so I liken it to like when you're on a lazy river, like we call it shooting the hooch here in Atlanta, the Chattahoochee River, where you just get on the float and you like float down the river and you can drink a beer and you get off at the other side. Well, if we're in just a lazy river, just floating down the river our whole lives, we stay inactive. Nothing activates. But when you hit those rapids and you have to sit up and actually focus and actually activate your body, then things start to move. And so that's why, and we have to, my boyfriend says it all the time. we suffer not to stay in suffering, but we suffer so that we'll be inspired to move, to get out of it. And that movement's what's important. And
it's what I say, when you are so sick and tired of being sick and tired of yourself that you just want to about throw up all over yourself and in yourself, right? That's when usually as human beings, and I don't know why we do it, myself included, right? We wait until the last minute, until nothing else can happen. And then we'll decide, okay, maybe I better like just wake up now. But we do that, and that's a beautiful thing. And very often it's the dark night of the soul that inspires that change. So don't run away from your pain. Make friends with your pain. Your pain is telling you something, whether it's for physical pain or emotional or mental pain. Let's not run away, because the minute we run away, we elevate our fear or we block it away, whatever. We don't know what's behind us. And when you don't know what's there, you hear all these sounds or whatever, right? You make up monsters in your mind. Your mind is such a powerful tool. So calm down, breathe, and let your breath guide you through where you need to be. It's amazing when you're able to do that. Anyway, I think we should better get on with Francis Borgia, exorcisms, and necromancy.
Well, speaking of feeding off of fear, you guys, like Francis Borgia, this little, I was about to say a bad word. We'll say this little douche. So hopefully we can finish him up today, you guys. And again, we've done many episodes on this because it took us going through the Schmezuits. It took us going through all these different elements to understand why Francis Borgia is the most problematic, we'll use a modern day term, of all the Borgias. And I will say, so there is a Friar Isaac Longworth. He has a podcast, and he has a podcast on Francis Borgia, and it is completely inaccurate. His podcast is historically inaccurate. It's very, 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 very much propaganda. He seems like a nice guy to me. I don't know if he's doing this on purpose or if he's just repeating what he's been told to repeat because he works for the church. So you've been doing, so Jackie, the thing about exorcisms is we have to actually have people's consent. So if you're trying to do any type of like exorcisms on people without their consent, you're actually dabbling in black magic at that point. So that's the thing. Everybody has free will, and we have to make free will choices. But we're going to get into exorcisms because if remember on Monday, guys, I talked about necromancy being the using of a relic of a dead person to like harness the dead person to do your bidding, which is what saints are, right? That's what saints are. It's a part of necromancy. And remember that this...
Brice, if you don't mind, I want to just respond to this question, comment here. Sorry to chime in. Bloom, I'm going to respond to this here. But in heaven, suffer don't exist, and Adam and Eve were not meant to suffer. God did not make us to suffer. This is the thing. It was never the original human design to learn with suffering. You are wrong. Because if it wasn't designed by God, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Understand something. We live in the world of extremes, okay? Let's look at the world we live in. Let's just look at Earth, where we can't deny things. There's the polarization of everything. Mm-hmm. There's the polarization of suffering, right? Let's look at the law of rhythm, okay? So there's suffering extreme. Look at our SRA victims. Now you talk about extreme suffering. Yeah. You talk about torture and suffering from the womb, right? And then you go to the extreme angelic presence of just love, light, beauty, nothing bad exists. These are extremes. On planet Earth, we live in the realm of free will and choice. Mm-hmm. In other words, God says, okay, my children, you now understand the extremes. There's your option. With your free will and choice, what do you choose? Now, suffering can be anything from the extremist SRA to jealousy with your husband, to raging unnecessarily with your children, to being a gossip at work, to causing shit when you shouldn't, to just being a nag, having any kind of pain body attachment. We all have it. We all have it. It's up to us to get out of it. And when we recognize it, when we recognize what suffering is, as you say, Brice, it inspires us to transform, not transmute, because what you're talking about is transmuting from pain to love. How many of us, when we have fights with our husbands or sisters, go from happy to angry, happy to angry, happy to angry? Anything can trigger us in between. If they say the right thing, we're happy. If they say the wrong thing, we're pissed off, right?
Yeah.
Now, until you've understood the perfection of both sides, you have to understand the perfection of both sides. And the greatest masters understood perfection does not always feel good. Now, understand the perfection of both sides. Then you're going to understand, and then you transform. And then when people put stuff like that to me, it tells me they have not understood.
There's a lack of, and I will say,
there's an indoctrination there. There's an indoctrination. And this is where you guys are getting stuck.
Yeah.
You're getting stuck by thinking that everything that is not your belief is wrong or evil. You have to come out of that. You have to realize there's so much more. This is why we put shows on the cryptids out there.
Yeah.
This is why we have people that we are in this experience of believing that there's only that way and that way only. There are many ways. Might not be your way, but it is the way of many others too. And that's where the acceptance comes in, that others are free to choose as well. No, it's not your job to save every soul. You see, that's the thing.
No, we're not. That's against free will choice. You have to save your own soul.
You are now elevating yourself above someone else. If you think you are there to save their soul, you're not. You are here to look at your own pain. And as long as your own pain is not healed, you're going to look towards everyone else to try and save them. This is what the church teaches us. And this is where the indoctrination starts. It's like the missionaries coming to Africa, telling the African people they are savages because they didn't believe that. Every person is free to choose. And this is what we must understand. There's perfection in everything. And only when you've been through that, and you ask some SR survivors who have survived and come through that, people like Rachel Vaughan, people like Joanne Brice, who's sitting in the audience, and they've come through the worst of the worst of the worst. And through their healing, they're understanding why God has asked them to be that.
Yeah.
Because through that, they can now help others out of their suffering. That's where the perfection lies. And that's where a lot of people miss the point. So these are the little things we have to look at. You can't say God didn't choose this because God is the creator of everything. When someone says that to me, it tells me they haven't understood the universe. That's all.
Absolutely.
So in our minds, let's not decide for other people what they should be and what they shouldn't be. The first thing is step back, look at your own life, look at your own health, look at your own body, look at your own family. Look at your own shit you've got in your relationships. Look at all of that first before you look outside of yourself. Then the world heals. Then we start looking at each other with different eyes.
Yeah, and just be very careful about the elitism too, guys. That's a part of the negative polarity. Like if you somehow think that you're responsible for saving other people, or you somehow think that you know best when that puts you in a pecking order. And that's negative polarity. That's part of the darkness. In the light, and I know we want to do the law of one at some point. I would just definitely be very mindful of other people's free will and ask yourself, like we talk about praying for people. Well, actually, you need their permission to pray for them, right? Prayer is a spell. So you need their permission to do that. right? You can't take it upon yourself because you think you know what's best for somebody else. You don't know what their life plan. You don't know what God has planned for them. You have to worry about you, you know? And so, and also I would really beg the Christians to consider, what is the etymology of the word Christian? One who steals the Christ. That's the etymology of the word Christian, right? So really think about this for a second. The New World Order wants one world religion. So why is it that these Christians want everyone to be Christian? Have they taught you to defend the bad guys? Have they taught you to defend the New World Order? Think about that for a second. The name Jesus means Hail Zeus. It doesn't mean the guy who lived, the guy Yahshua. That's a totally different name. Mary, the name Mary was not their names. Mary was a derogatory name. Yahshua's mother's name was Alma Mari. Magdalene was not Mary Magdalene. She was just Magdalene. There's a reason why they do the things they do. The Bible has been edited over 55 times since the 1600s when King James and the Freemasons wrote it. The original Bible is underneath the Vatican. We've never seen it. So you have to be very careful when you're trying to diagnose other people when you've actually got false doctrine as well. You know, one thing is true is God. We know what, if you need a religion to tell you what's right and wrong, you don't need religion, you need morals. And you're born with morals if you have a soul. A 3-year-old knows right from wrong. So, and this is actually, speaking of Francis Borgia, like this is it. This is what we're talking about, because he was the 3rd Black Pope. And again, the Schmezuits, the Society of Jesus or the Society of Zeus, which is what that means, they support the New World Order. They support one world government, one world religion. Okay? And so that's what we have to be. All these people think they're awake. They think they're awake, but yet they're defending the cabal. That's why I think the cabal's still here, is because we're still going to church. People are still reading their Bible. They got you. The cabal got you. You know, so we have to just really and recognize that God is not religion. God is not man-made religion. God didn't. God allowed it to take place, as Shanti said, for a reason. We can't.
Free will and choice, division.
Yeah.
The separation. Remember that when we work from pure Christ consciousness, God consciousness, we are one. There is no separation. The opposite of oneness is divide and conquer, which is what happens on earth. Everything here is about divide and conquer. So.
And Christianity, I said this before, statistically speaking, you guys can look this up. Christianity by far has the most bloodshed on it out of any religion out there. By far. So we have to be very, very careful. And as I said at the start of the show, with all this Puff Daddy stuff coming out, there are whistleblowers. The church is going to go down with Puff Daddy because they are complicit in all this stuff too. So you got to get prepared. If you think God lives in the church, then this is your wake-up call. This is your chance to get uncomfortable and go on your own dark night of the soul, because that's not where God is. Right?
And Terrell, I want to say to you, you've misunderstood. You see, there's such a fine line. And this is what, I mean, for 25 years of teaching this stuff, I've understood that people often will take one word, misunderstand the word, and it changes the whole essence of what I'm trying to say. I'm going to put your comment up. What you are saying smacks of the old belief God puts bad stuff on earth to teach us something. Now, let me tell you, I never said that. I never said that. I said God is the creator of everything. God has created energy, right? Energy is neutral. It does not have emotion.
Yep.
So what we are given is energy with which to create. So you get to create beauty from it, or you get to create destruction. So God gives us a choice. You are the one who makes the choice. Now, I don't know why God has given us that choice, but it's here. It's evident all around you. So please, you guys must not misunderstand me and quote me according to your judgment. You judge me according to your standards.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. I talk in very, very subtle terms. You've got to listen and you've got to read between the lines when you hear what I'm saying. We have a choice here. It's your choice to take right or left. It's not pure crap. If you think I'm speaking pure crap, look around you.
Yeah. This is
and
the
then
plan
we'll
of
talk again.
There's a left and a right. There's a dark and a right. There's a left and a right, a dark and a light. There's a yin and a yang. There's a
What
north
do you
pole and
think?
a south pole. This is
What do
polarity.
you think free will and choice is about? Come on. What do you think free will and choice is about? Now, your comment there doesn't hold up for me. It doesn't make sense because evidence is all around you and you arguing the point. God created Lucifer. Let's never forget that. And God does not make mistakes. Now take that and work with that for a little while and ask yourself why. Ask yourself why God gives Lucifer permission every day to do what he does. And you guys get pissed off with Lucifer.
Yeah. It's your choice.
Doesn't make sense to me. Come on, think about this.
And Jackie, my name is Brice. It's not Atlanta. So if you're going to be nasty, please at least address me by my actual name, not a condescending tone like that. And we're not going to show proof of exorcisms. What we're going to be talking about is how exorcisms in the Catholic Church is actually demonic witchcraft. That's what we're going to be talking about with Francis Borgia. And I mean, this is the truth, guys. Like, I know for the last 4 years now, I know Shanti and I both have received plenty of unaliving threats, plenty of stuff like that, because we're speaking the truth. Yeah, I agree, Janice. Jackie, please keep it civil. We're not talking down anybody. This is the subject we're talking about today. This is what this is what the show's about.
Jackie, Crystal Star Guardian, I really don't like putting people into timeout, but I love to because it feels like I'm being your mommy then. Please just keep it civil. We're having a conversation on this channel. We let the conversation flow. Sometimes we have conversations like this, which is beautiful. I love it. Yeah. I love having a debate on stuff. Yeah, I really am. But anyway, Brice, I think carry on with the exorcisms and stuff, and let's see where we go.
And I just want to say too, just because you don't like hearing the information doesn't mean you're being spoken down to. That's another form of manipulation. This is what the show's about, and this is the research, and we've been building this up for a while, and this is important information that people need to hear. And as always, do your own research as well. Thank you, Eagle Hawk. But this is where we start to take our power back, when we realize how we've been manipulated, and we realize, like, oh my God, if the church isn't true, if religion isn't true, if they're lying to us, if medicine isn't true, if politics isn't true, a lot of people freak out because they don't want to be challenged. But the beautiful thing is, if none of this is true, then what is true? And that's where we get to go on the exploration. And what is true is so powerful and so beautiful that it's worth breaking down these concepts of illusion. Yes, Charmaine, knowledge is power. And the more we know, the less they can hide. Right? And so it's been indoctrinated for many generations, but we're breaking it. We're here to break it, right? We're here to re-talk about these things and see these things in people like Francis Borgia in a different light, because the church will tell you that he was an incredible saint. So Liz, you said, is it certain that I actually, in my opinion, with that, she can you see that question that she asked Shanti about some exorcisms are doing good and not witchcraft? Can you pull that question up, Shanti? Because that's a really good question that Liz just asked. Now, my opinion. Now, typically, I don't like to generalize. Typically. However, in my opinion, I think they all know they're doing witchcraft, because in order to be an exorcist for the church, you have to have climbed the ranks. So now your little priest at your church around the corner might not know, but when you get to that point of going to the Vatican to train in this, you're training in heavy duty warlock shit. And you have to know at that point that it's just like the Jesuits know what they're doing. So I believe that most of these exorcists absolutely know what they're doing. That's my opinion, though, based on my own critical thinking skills. So with that being said, we know.
Can I say something to you about that as well? There's a woman, Erica Makuza. She was, and probably she was, the top African witch or in East Africa. Now I know she's been around for a while. And at the age of 9 or 10, she was a more powerful witch than her grandmother. She was trained by her grandmother, and people in the village were now, instead of going to see the grandmother, they were now coming to see her. So this is the power that we're talking about here. And she talks about how, as a kid, she would go to church. They took her to church, but she would leave her demons or whatever it was, the entities, whatever you want to call it, whoever was working through her, she would leave them in the bathroom at home. She would only take the ones with her to church that could handle that. So then they would start doing exorcisms in church, right? And as they were doing the exorcisms in church, they were taking those spirits that were coming out of that body and putting it into another body.
Yep.
Now now, if you guys want to go and listen, I'm not even sure what her video is. Her name is Erica Makuza. She was married to a guy. He's a Kenyan guy. She's Ugandan. He's Kenyan. And they were also involved. He was involved with Diddy and those guys. Also, they were hauling him in. They got involved in all that stuff due to Diddy and the African-American hip-hop artists. It's all part of the same thing. But she talks about exactly that. That's how clever they are. They know exactly what they're doing when it comes to exorcisms. There's spirits hovering on the Saturday night before, let's say the church service is on Sunday. On the Saturday night before the church, there is all sorts of rituals and things that go on in the church. And then these unclean spirits are hovering and waiting.
Yeah.
So the next morning, come in. And again, Caleb has spoken to us before about as mages and stuff in the system, they know exactly the people that are open to, what do you call it? Corruption. Yeah. And they would go in and they would usually the preachers and the pastors and stuff and the high-ups in the church are always open to corruption. They would therefore then buy them over, and these guys are used as their puppets through soul harvesting, soul gems, and stuff like that. Caleb has explained all of that in some of his previous recordings, how that also works. So let's not think that this stuff doesn't happen, and especially if the Catholic Church is absolutely, I mean, the head of the New World Order, basically. Of course.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why, that's why I say, like, if someone just decides they want to be a priest and they go to preschool or whatever, I think they're pretty innocent. But I think if you make it that far, you've been absolutely corrupted, and you know it, because this is extreme witchery. This is extreme warlock stuff that we're talking about with exorcisms. Now, I want to remind everybody too, because I want to talk a little bit about Irving Finkel, who is like my favorite person on the internet, you guys. If you ever get to watch any of Irving Finkel's video, do so. Because Irving Finkel is this English Assyrianologist. He's an older man. He's got this long beard, and he is my favorite. He does these videos where he talks about like ancient history, but he gets so excited and he talks about it, and it's like a story. And I like want to go hang out with Irving Finkel. I think he's great. So I listened to some of his research into the history of exorcism, because that's what I was Janice. I love him. Like I'm like so obsessed with him. He has no idea who I am, but I want to go to London just to meet him because he is hysterical. So he is an Assyrianologist. So he does a lot of deep dives into our history of stuff. And so I was curious when I was looking at Francis Borgia, after I got into necromancy, like, what is the actual history of exorcism? And so that's when I stumbled upon Irving Finkel. So he goes in to say, I'm going to talk about this first before we get into Francis Borgia, that he claims that ghost stones, so ghost, Ghost stones, appear for the first time in the ancient Middle East, which is modern day Iraq, where writing began. Okay, so this is like 4,000 years ago. And he says this is important because even our ancestors in these stones differentiate between ghosts and demons. And so why did our ancient ancestors need to know the difference between a ghost and a demon? Well, for the same reason that we do, right? A ghost is a disembodied spirit. It's a human being that was once human, body has passed away, that for some reason just wants to stay on this plane, right? They're earthbound spirits. That's a ghost. And a lot of times ghosts are not that harm. They can cause harm accidentally, but they're not trying to like harm you, right? And we have free will choice, right? So even in death, we have free will choice to go into the light or to stick around. But demons are entities that were never human. And so our ancient ancestors needed to know the difference for the purpose of healing. So this is where we get into exorcisms. Now, what he found is that ancient exorcisms from our ancestors were nothing like we see today from the church. Ancient exorcisms looked a lot like what Shanti does, what I do, what my friend Cindy does, where you worked with a healer, because here's the catcher, here's the kicker. If you have a possession or an oppression from a spirit, you can have a healer assist you, but you're the one that actually has to exorcise it. You're the one that actually has to be the one to remove it, because it's your free will. So he talked about this. So they would do things like create amulets, bury jars in their backyard to help give that person protection as they were in the process of removing what was ever attached to them. I mean, that makes sense, right, Shanti?
Absolutely.
Not what the church says. The church wants you to give all their power over to them. Let them do it. And anytime you give your power over to something, well, you've given your power over to something, right? You've sold your soul, basically. Right? So then he goes, and now this is what I thought was interesting. He found, or his team or whoever found these tablets where they were asked to draw what they thought a demon looked like. Like, imagine it as an old handbook for people who were healers. I kid you not, guys. I noticed this. Irving Finkel didn't say anything about this, but I noticed it. Demons look like humans with long skirts and a headdress. That's the Pope. That's the Jesuits.
and especially if you see the Pope's hat and all the symbolism on that hat. Yeah, absolutely.
So in ancient Assyria, they were literally, before the Catholic Church even existed, they were drawing what we would now see as clergy and calling them demons. So that's another reason why Liz, I think that the exorcists absolutely know that they're dabbling in black witchery, because they're wearing the garb too. Liz, if you go, I think I have some on my, if you go and look for, if you just Google Irving Finkel it's on Rumble, and you'll see, he has everything. He shows everything from his findings. So definitely I would absolutely, look him up. He's got very, very, very long podcast over all this stuff. I'm seriously like, I'm probably going to get charged with stalking because I love this man so much. Like, I just want to be his friend. Like, he is the coolest. He is like he's a nerd we like, because he obviously loves his job, and he gets really, really excited. You can tell he just gets so excited to like share all of this stuff with us. So now so I wrote in my notes that exorcism started in Assyria, and it's not at all like the church does today. It's more, these exorcisms are more like what Shanti and I do. I'm going to tell you to start exercise, like literally moving your body. That's interesting. Exercism, because your body's going to start to detox. What is anaerobic work? let's talk, because yoga is a lot of anaerobic work, as is dance. Anaerobic work is a different, aerobic and anaerobic work both have value. Aerobic uses oxygen as a quick source of energy. Anaerobic is without oxygen, meaning that it uses your glucose or your stored fat. Well, as spiritual people, we know that consciousness comes before matter. Consciousness creates matter. So if the anaerobic work like yoga or dance is using stored fat for energy, pulling that up, what else is coming up with that stored fat? Held emotion, attachments.
Exactly.
So that's why exercise is the foundational to a spiritual practice, because you're literally giving yourself an exorcism. And that's why, and we know, and Shanti, it's not a one and done, is it? Like it's peeling the onion back. Like the deeper you go, the deeper your body
it's not. Absolutely, because, if you think about it, if you do stuff, and I mean, people seem to think the gym is the way, and I don't agree with that. I've also been an aerobics instructor in my life. Rest assured, I've done all of that with the steps and the this and the that. Aerobic exercise, for a number of reasons, because with the stretching and the twisting and the breathing that you do in yoga, it definitely releases, because in the muscles, in the joints, in the ligaments, in the tendons, there is stored emotions, because remember, your body stores your emotions. Each part of your body means something.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start looking at your body and appreciating your body, that's one of the things that my students have to do on one of my workshops that they do, one of my courses. Part of their homework is to actually look at themselves naked in the mirror. Stand in front of the mirror for X amount of time and X amount of days, and it goes along with a lot of other stuff. And then instead of seeing a fat, wobbly, whatever that most people do, right? You now start appreciating your stretch marks because that's carried your children. You start appreciating your scars because now they become badges of honor.
Yep.
You start appreciating your legs because they carry you forward in life, for giving you movement, as opposed to how much cellulite you have and going to the next available fix to get smooth thighs. It's like your whole idea about yourself starts changing. So, and when that starts happening, you appreciate yourself more. Your confidence grows, your energy grows, your health improves, your mood changes, your friendships change, your relationship gets better. I don't know, everything just gets better.
Yeah.
Because you're not looking at yourself from such a superficial level anymore. You're starting to see yourself for the being that you are, and using this incredible body, because your body is not just your meat suit. I mean, it's not just your temple. For me, it's my amusement park. I love doing things with my body. We have lots of fun together. I love it.
Sometimes it's a mystery theater.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Only she always comes with me on every dodgy, scandalous thing I do. Yep. She and my shadow self.
So simply said, your body keeps a score. There is a book called I have it somewhere, The Body Keeps a Score. And that goes down to the legitimacy of true exorcisms, right? Because you said the body keeps the score. So let's think about that. So like attracts like, right? So if you're stuck in a constant, what we call a samskara, which is samskara is Sanskrit for like a broken record, or the record would skip, where you're kind of, have you ever had it in your life where you're repeating the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over again? The formula might look different, but it's the same mistake. Well, there's obviously something within you that's a samskara, that's a broken record, and that needs to be fixed. And so the only person that can actually heal that is you. You can do it with the help of teachers and healers, but you have to do the work. And so I love Simply Said, you work in mental health? Yeah. So you get this. So let's say that we've got a demon attachment, or we're oppressed by a demon. Well, there's something in you that has allowed that demon to be hooked in, whether it's a jealousy issue or an anger issue or some trauma. And you can remove the demon, But if you haven't fixed you, it's going to come back. It's going to come back.
Absolutely. And this is exactly what sanitarium, I want to say, I'm discovering the ridiculous shame I've been covering by consuming chemicals forever. And that's exactly what we're talking about there, Brice. You know, we've got to look at why.
Yeah, why?
What are we numbing?
Yeah, it's
Let's,
not the
and
action that's really
it's
the
not,
problem.
oh my God, I'm an alcoholic, I'm such a F up, I'm a loser, and everyone hates me. Yes, that might be where you're at right now. But let's first show yourself one thing, empathy. Just like you'd show your best friend, show yourself empathy. Okay, Chantelle, when did you start feeling so much pain inside of your heart that you felt you needed to numb it with a drink? At what point? What was the thing that did that for you? You see, and this is how the shadow work begins. Because, and then you get a diary or a journal and you start writing and you start crying and you start releasing and you start remembering. And suddenly you see a podcast that is completely in line with you. Suddenly you find a book or you meet a person or you come across a healer that can help you on your next step. You see, this is exactly what I call alignment. When you start coming into alignment, then these things start happening. We don't have to force them. Yes, and you might be in alignment and say, hey, I need to go and see a naturopath. I want to get just a checkup on my health. And then next thing your friend says, hey, have you heard the new naturopath moved into the area? And you go, okay, cool, I need to go see her. You start seeing the synchronicities. You don't have to wait and pray for 3 days before you get an answer. When you have that, when you become the living Bible, yes, God has sent us the Bible as a handbook, but how long do you need your handbook for, people? At some point, you've got to be able to integrate what your handbook has taught you. And you don't have to go and shouting out every verse that you know, because that tells me you haven't integrated it. Integrate it, live it, become it. Then you are prompted all the time by God, all the time. You don't even question. You just know. It's like now we're out of kindergarten, we're in masterclass now. We're riding motorbikes now, not tricycles anymore. That's the point I'm making, is that it's a process that you understand these things. I mean, when I was a child, they'd say, what's your name? My name is Chantelle. That's my daddy and that's my mommy. I'm 5 years old and I live there and there. I'm now 58 years old. My name is still Chantelle. That's still my father. I've still got the same blood group, but I don't need to go tell everyone every time I meet them, do I? It's just part of who I am, and I know that now. It's the same thing with spirituality. When you connect with the real Christ in your heart, you don't have to question anything. You and Christ are so tightly connected. You don't owe anyone any explanation for anything, because you know in your heart what you're doing, and you belong to God and God belongs to you. And the two of you work in a synonymous way that no one can ever take away. That's masterclass stuff.
Yeah.
That's the stuff I'm talking about now. And this is when we get to this awareness, we start realizing these things. That's what happens when you surrender. When you surrender your heart. Rumi says, break your heart wide open. Oh boy, did I do that. And it hurts so hard, it hurts so good. Because in the moment you break it open, God's light shines through. And
the more your heart breaks, the more the light can shine through. And Dragonfly, I love that. She said, my exorcism was changing my diet to an Ayurvedic diet, made a world of difference. Yeah, me too. That's why I share it with you guys, because the dosha diet changed my life as well. But yeah, and that's the thing too, like looking at the dosha diet, that's why exorcisms from the church, there's not one path of removing these obstacles, because every single human being's karma is different. And so if somebody's telling you they can do an exorcism on you, or they can do this for you and that for you, run the other way. Because that's a huge red flag, because you are the one that has to do that. Now, a teacher or a healer will help you and give you the tools to assist you. They will hold your hand and they will sweat with you, and but you are the one that has to do it. And over time, and it doesn't happen in one session. It happens over time, over many times, and over many years of work. And then you've had your exorcism, and you know when you've shifted. You know when something within you has shifted. You
You
know?
know what I love about Brice, what you're saying there as well, and I'm just watching some of the chats like Janice and Sanitarium Radio, all of that, speaking about the addictions and the vices I think we've all had. You know, all of us have had an addiction of sorts. And as women, we are addicted to emotions.
Yeah.
Let's never
Because we're
forget
the
that.
water element. We're the moon, right?
Yeah.
We're aponic.
Yeah. So we will oftentimes, although I must say in recent years, not so much, but in past years, you're going to find men had more physical addictions like alcohol or smoking or pornography or work or whatever it might be, right? Women, we unfortunately get addicted to drama. So we have this self-sabotaging behavior, you know, and we can all look at it and we can all see when it comes out to play. And the thing is, it's like you might say, oh gosh, I'm trying to lose 20 pounds. But hey, I get up in the middle of the night and there's half a cake there and I just can't help myself and I just chomp half that cake in the middle of the night. And the next morning I wake up, I feel disgusting. I can't get out of bed. I feel so guilty. And I'd say to yourself, okay, take the cake out of the equation or whatever the action is. Let's look at the emotion you're feeling. Oh, guilt. Well, that's the emotion you're addicted to, sweetheart. You're addicted to guilt. So let's find out why. Let's work on your guilt because the opposite of guilt is freedom. What is going to set you free from that guilt?
Yep.
That's how we get out of the matrix, people. It's not through somebody coming to save us.
Nope.
This is how we strengthen our own soul, our own consciousness. This is how we expand. This is what Jesus was asking us to do.
Mm-hmm.
Know
100%.
thyself.
100%.
Know thyself. When you know yourself.
And Jojo said, I like this quote or this comment, Jojo. You said, I always have more work to do and that's okay. Like I'm way overweight, but right now, but instead of beating myself up and I've started to make changes and that's what matters. I want to make this clear. You're never done. So don't even, Jojo, don't beat yourself up. This is a never ending journey. You know when you're done? When you die. And then you get a new life with new karma. So it's about enjoying, like, what is that? What is it Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita? He tells Arjuna to love the work for the sake of the work, not for the
countless voices in the dark. Ha! Where are you? Wait, hang on.
I love that.
We go.
Yes, we are here to save ourselves. We're not here to save anybody else but ourselves.
And you can be a voice for someone. Mm-hmm. You can be an inspiration. If they ask you, you can put out a podcast and whoever wants to listen to your podcast, it's their free will and choice. It is not your job to run into someone else's property and tell them that they are a sinner and they must change their ways. It's not your job to do that.
Or tell them that you're
outside and they are hurting a child. I agree. If they are hurting a child or doing things or you're a neighbor or whatever, absolutely. Get involved, call the police or whatever you need to do. Be a good citizen. Don't just pretend it's not happening. Get involved to the point you can. But the point is every person needs to make their own free will and choice. And that is why I have a golden rule, and I have had a golden rule for 20 years in my practice, more like 25 years now. And it's the person who wants the appointment with me must always phone me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
If people will say to me, I'm going to give you so-and-so's number to phone them, I go, get them to call me. And for no other reason is that they have to want to pick up the phone. They've got to want this enough to pick up the phone and make the call. Because I know when people come to me, they're ready for big shifts. They are ready for big shifts. No one comes because that's what I do. I'm an Aquarian. This is my time. I'm a double Aquarian. I'm going to rattle you out of your comfort zone if you come to see me. And that's why you're either going to love me or you're going to go, no, that chick's weird. And I'm very happy being weird. Very, very, very happy being weird. So happy, I will jump over the moon.
Yeah. Well, I want to say too, that's the difference too. Like, think about this when we look at the wording. You know, a healer or a teacher's job is to eventually not be needed, right? Like in a room of healing, when I'm teaching students, even though I know more than they do in that moment about the technique, I'm giving them the information and they're practicing it. But my job as a teacher is to give them autonomy so they don't need me. Right. And I explain to students that the role of the teacher changes over time. They say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But when the student is really ready, the teacher disappears because then you're on your own. And if we look at the churches where you have a priest or a pope or a preacher and you can't question the clergy and somehow they're always above you, that's a problem. That's a huge problem because that's not the side of light. Right? As a teacher, if I have a new student that comes in that's never done yoga a day in their life, of course I am going to be more of the dominant authority figure in the room. But it's just for me to teach them that stuff. And then eventually over time, they're going to gain their independence. That's if I'm a good teacher, they're going to gain their independence and they're going to be able to then integrate that information for themselves and understand that information for themselves into their own lives. And an example of that is my students, I am there for them in the classroom, in the Mysore room, I'm there for them. And if they text me in the week and have a question, absolutely, I'll answer their question. But I'm not telling them who they should marry, who they should divorce. I'm not telling them if they need to go see another healer or not. That's up to them. That's up to them. I'm not telling them, sorry, Robbie's agreeing with me. If you guys can hear Robbie barking, there must be somebody outside. I'm not telling them, what to do with their life outside of the work. It's up to them to navigate that through the information that they get while they're working on themselves. And that's the biggest difference, really, is a person lending you power or helping you find your own power to do things for yourself, or are they keeping you in a position where you're always lower than them? And yeah, if you actually go back and look at the ancient exorcisms, you're going to see that they were absolutely, yes, Jojo, don't interfere with someone else's path and lessons they need to learn. We say don't interrupt somebody's karma.
Unless they ask you to get involved. They've got to give you permission. You see, the dark forces have got one thing right.
Permission.
That they always have to get permission. They know that. And it's exactly the same thing. I will never work with someone unless I have their permission, honestly. And it has to be spiritually as well.
Yeah,
otherwise, it's like entering someone's house uninvited when they're not home. It's like very rude.
That's even with like tarot card reading on people, like you shouldn't be pulling tarot cards on people without their permission, because that's like breaking into their house. You don't have that permission to be there. You wouldn't break into their house and rummage through their stuff. I mean, I'm lucky I do it with dead people, but I'm not going to their houses and looking through their stuff, right? I'm not going to, we shouldn't be pulling tarot. We shouldn't be pulling tarot cards on Trump or Biden, because that's not our business, what they do in their private lives, right? So
you see, this is the kind of message I love. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy. This is what I love. The thing is a healer. And I've been a healer my whole life. I was born a baby healer. I was a baby healer from day dot. And I will never forget, there was this one woman in particular. It was in Namibia, probably 6 or 7 years ago. And I looked at her and I said to her, my dear, you are not 1 millimeter too far ahead or 1 millimeter too far back from exactly where you are meant to be. That was her life-changing moment, because I literally saw in her eyes the light go on. And when we work with people and suddenly they have that aha moment where suddenly 30 years of pain just dissolves in 1 second because they've seen the truth. And that's my job, is to show you the truth. And your truth sometimes is not easy. It's sometimes painful. But man, it's liberating. Oh my God. It is the most liberating. True honesty is the highest form of love. Because when you are true to someone else, or when you are true to yourself, and that's a declaration of self-love. Being honest with yourself is a declaration of self-love. And being honest with someone else is most certainly the highest form of love. That's all you can be, is true. This is who I am. This is me, naked in my truth.
Vulnerable.
If you don't like me, fagala ofala. I'm quite happy without you in my life. So, bye.
Jojo, I want to answer your question here. If someone asks you for help, but they are not really listening and taking up a lot of your energy, is it okay to say no? Absolutely, it's okay to say no. We do this a lot with our students. That just aren't, you know, you could have a teacher or a healer and you're just not a match. And so we'll say to students that are taking up a lot of our time and we feel like it's not a good match, you know, maybe there's a better teacher for you. It's okay. You need to also set boundaries for yourself as well. So don't martyr yourself. You know, don't let an energy vampire keep pulling your energy. If it's not working for you, have to take care of you as well. So I would say absolutely.
Also, but I want to say there, remember, every single person is a mirror.
Yeah.
Let's look at law of attraction, okay? Energy I always say to my students, guys, this is masterclass here tonight, okay? This is workshop material I'm giving you. So take it, and work with it. Because usually you're going to pay lots of money to hear this information. I'm kidding. Okay, what did I say again? Oh, I forgot.
Shadow band. Since this is a masterclass, guys, share this video out because we are effing shadow banned all the time.
So now, people don't come into our lives per accident. Now remember, your body is created from sound, frequency, and vibration. Boom. So is everyone else's. So is everything in this universe. So law of attraction states, now on earth we live according to the boss law of attraction. Law of attraction states energy will always attract its same vibration, right? So if you are attracting people into your life who suck your energy, who are energy vampires. Now remember, masterclass, it's not the other person, it's me. I stop blaming others. I look at myself. And I don't blame myself. I'm not telling myself I'm the bad person. There's a fine line because most people tend to beat themselves up at this point. This is not what we want to be doing. We want to say, hang on, okay, I'm the common denominator in 74 deceptions that have happened in my life. So now if I keep attracting into my life people who deceive me, people who betray me, what is the common denominator there? Deception, betrayal, lies. So the question I will say then is, where have I lied to me? Where have I not been truthful to me? Where have I thought that this is the best that life has to offer me? Where have I thought I have to stay small and limited? I am lying to myself. So everyone is telling me that, but I'm not seeing that. I'm looking outside of myself instead of inside of myself. And instead of saying, thank you, Master, thank you for teaching me. Thank you for showing me the things I'm not seeing. What do? I call them liars, cheats, bad people, because I can't bear to look that might be inside of me. It's a typical projection. Typical case of projection. So what you got to do is say thank you to each person who's lied to you, who's deceived you, who's betrayed you, because they are teachers for you. And then you got to go and do your shadow work on the thing that has hurt you the most, deception. And then you learn how to be true to yourself. And when you start committing to yourself, when you start being honest to yourself, by committing, I say, if you say, I'm going to go exercise tomorrow, but you keep procrastinating, are you surprised you attract people who procrastinate into your life? No. Commit to yourself. Take a healthy diet. And then suddenly your energy changes to that of, I commit to me. What do you think you're going to attract into your life then? People who commit to you.
Yeah.
Whether it's relationships, business partners, friends, whatever, the whole energy doesn't matter about the one thing. You got to change the essence, because that essence has many little veins that go along.
And that's so important, because I'm looking in the chat and we have so many people saying they used to be doormats. And I will say, me too. I was a people pleaser too for a very, very long time. And I still find myself doing that a lot, like I was energy vampiring myself. And when I started to really look at that, I realized that what was happening for me was that this was a trauma response to trying to keep people happy. So that because I grew up around narcissism. And so I was energy vampiring myself in lieu of somebody else. And so learning those boundaries to say no was part of the lesson there. And so I saw too that Liz, you asked about necromancy. Sue, that's not actually the definition of necromancy. Necromancy is involving dead bodies. Necro is corpse, Nancy is prophecy. So I will say, Liz, go check out our video from Monday. We go into a total explanation of necromancy from Monday's video. So yeah. It doesn't have anything to do with astrology. It's literally using body parts for intervention and witchcraft.
Astrology, by the way, is from the heavens. Okay,
yeah,
you can ask anyone. Yeah. Astrology is one of the tools that came from the heavens.
It's God's calendar. So, it's not human. It's God's calendar.
It's God's calendar. So anyone who says astrology is evil does not understand.
That's not, And necro is body. It's corpse. So it's corpse. Mancy, so it's using dead people, dead bodies for witchcraft, basically ritualistic witchcraft. So go back and look at that. We went into depth of that. I find it so fascinating because I have a curiosity with this macabre stuff. Don't practice it unless you want to practice black magic. But yeah, I agree with you on the whole energy vampire stuff. So if you do find that you have a lot of energy vampires in your life, why are you giving your energy away so freely? Why are you devaluing yourself so much that you're willing to
boundaries? Anything that, think about if you have a burglary or someone disrespects your space, think about that. That is all about boundaries. Think about that. Where are your boundaries within you not in place? Or you might be too rigid in your boundaries. You might build up steel walls around you, which also is not good. Boundaries are understanding when to say yes and when to say no.
Yeah.
You've got to discern. You don't say yes to every opportunity. Just because an opportunity comes your way doesn't mean you've got to take it. You've got to be discerning. Just because someone offers you $5,000 to have sex with them tonight doesn't mean you have to take it for $5,000. You know what I'm saying? You've got to be discerning. You've got to understand what your boundaries are. And if your boundaries are not in place, you're going to keep attracting situations in your life that show you that. Burglaries, people that treat you badly, that abuse your friendship, stuff like that. That's how it shows up in your life. And it's up to you to change that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Brice. Yeah.
I will say too, one thing that I found when I was trying to work on boundaries is understanding the difference I have in relationships with people. For example, let's take Shanti, for example, as my friend. Let's say that I woke up this morning and did not feel well, and I just absolutely didn't think I could film. I would have no problem texting Shanti and be like, girl, I'm sick. I can't film today. And I know that everything would be fine and we would just reschedule. But are there people in your life that you get nervous defending yourself to? Then look at those relationships and why is that? Does that make sense? Why are you allowing that? What in you is attracting that person? What in you is trying to please that person? And how is it different from the healthy relationships that you have? Like my friendship with Shanti is healthy, because I feel like I can be completely honest with her, and it's nothing's gonna, she's not going to get pissed at me if I got sick and couldn't do a show, or if I lost power because of Helena and couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? So that's a healthy friendship. Does that make sense? But if there are people that you feel like you have to always be performing for, then what is that? That's where, and for me, it helped when I was going through this first, comparing and contrasting the different relationships I had in my life and seeing, so I can understand more about myself. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. We learn from each other, and we must also remember, and I'm going to end off with this, your harshest lessons are taught to you by your strongest soulmates and your guides. And I'll leave it right there. Why? Because they love us unconditionally. They're going to show us our toughest lessons, because they love us.
Yeah. So I guess Monday we'll do the timeline of Francis Borgia.
We'll talk about that another day. Huh?
Now that we've gotten through all the little aspects of Francis Borgia's his own witchery and warlock stuff, we'll get into actually his life on Monday, I guess.
And don't you just love the way these conversations take on a life of their own? But guys, we're living in the time of Aquarius. We are both Aquarians. We just go with the flow. And so I hope you enjoyed the show.
There's
It's longer than
there's a
usual.
reason why we do this, guys, and that's why Francis Borgia, when I started really looking into him, Lisa, we haven't gotten to Francis Borgia's life yet. We've been having to talk about
kind
the
of did. We
Jesuits,
like started. I think we maybe
necromancy.
said.
So
We were
Francis
like,
Borgia, he had all this stuff going on in his life, and I text Shanti at one point. I was like, "This is going to be multiple parts because this dude was like a black pope, and he was doing some witchcraft. So we got to like do multiple parts on this. So we haven't even talked about his actual life yet because we have to understand the Jesuits, we have to understand necromancy, we have to understand exorcisms, and the truth of what these are before we actually look at his life. So we will get to his life. I guarantee you will never forget Francis Borgia now. From now on, every time there's lots of churches named after him. So
yeah, whenever you hear Francis Borgia, you're going to be thinking about us.
Yeah, you're going to be like, that asshole.
You're going to be remembering us with a chat. So yeah. Anyway. Oh, lovely. Same thing happened with owls. You're so right.
I mean,
so yeah, but anyway, we all just go with the flow, and whatever is happening, we will go with that. So I think I really enjoyed the chat. I thoroughly enjoyed all you lovely peeps that were joining us tonight.
Can I actually, before we sign out, can I say one thing on that quickly that I want to point out? Because I get this note a lot on my channel. If you want to hear the actual just story of these people and the timeline of these people, there are tons of historical channels you can go to and listen. My intention of doing these deep dives is for this, is for the dialogue, is for us to understand the greater themes of, and that is why I have no problem with us going a little off and looking at different things, because that's why we do these deep dives, is to understand the complexity of what these people were up to, right? Oh, Simply Set, you came through, Doug. Oh, I miss him so much. So thank you, Doug. I feel like he's guarding us from the other side. So
oh yeah.
So
anyway.
Yeah. So yeah. So enjoy these conversations, guys. That's why I do these deep dives, is for a deeper conversation on these topics, because otherwise, if you just want to hear the timeline, go listen to the Catholic Church. They'll give you a fluffed up, fluffy version of the timeline. So, anyway.
Yeah, please. I mean, yeah, I'm just so happy that the majority of us understand that the churches are not it. Lisa D, I'm so happy to see your little hammer. And we're just on the way out. Right. It was great, fantastic show, and thanks to my gorgeous moderators. Brice, you're a very bad moderator. You are never on the
I'm telling you, if I was doing the chat and moderating at the same time, the trolls would definitely be spreading some wild rumors about my witchcraft. I'd be like, y'all, you're giving me way too much credit. I am not that powerful. And you can hear Ravi barking. Ravi agrees. So he's in there barking right now. He agrees. So
well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Janice. And thank you, Joanne. And thank you, Brice. And thank you to everybody in the chat who has joined us for the show. I'm loving these conversations. I have to say, I feel like we're breaking some ground here. And yeah. And you guys know, if there's any of you who'd like to chat to me about private sessions or anything, I do them. I'm off to Namibia one of these. Did I just say that?
Did you just dox yourself, Shanti?
I just doxed myself. But I'm not going to anymore.
They don't know when, though. They don't know when.
No, okay. Yeah, I'm. You all know I've been working in Namibia for 20 years, and since lockdown, I have not been back. So finally, I'm going for a month to work again and see my beautiful tribe, soul family. But I will be working from there as well, and I'm going to be showing you some very, very cool spots, I hope. When I'm there, I'm going with my friend to hang out with the First Nation people, the elders, for a couple of days. So I am very excited.
Get to gossip, girl. You know those First Nation people. They got some juicy stories to tell you. Come on.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I'm very excited to be going there soon. And I'm not abandoning you guys, don't worry. I will be doing shows from there as well in amongst all my appointments. I promise you, I'm not abandoning you. So God bless you all. I love having you here. Thank you so much for joining us on this amazing journey. And thank you for doing life with us. Can you imagine if we were not alive right now? That would just be very tragic. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'd be sitting there on the other side, oh, can I get into that body? Can I get into that body?
Bored. We must have been really bored to be like, that's a good time to go to Earth. So I'll pick that time.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, everybody, take care. Tomorrow's Thursday. Not sure if you're seeing me, but you're seeing me on Friday with probably Catherine, I think, and on her channel, I think, and then Leo Zagami Friday evening again. So join me for that. Always fun having Leo. Our feisty Italiano, huh? And it was so funny with Danny Henderson the other day saying, if you want to listen to Leo Zagami, you must just turn your sound speed like a little bit slower.
Put the subtitles on.
Yeah, but with that Italian accent of his, I think half the subtitles are wrong anyway, which is so funny. But I love Leo. He is amazing. So happy to have him back on Friday again. Okay, guys, take care. God bless you all, and don't be good.
Bye, guys.